Hello, and welcome to the Finding the Unicorn in You podcast. I am your host, Dr. Jaime Raygoza, here to help you unlock your unique potential and thrive into your career. Get ready to explore inspiring stories and practical strategies that will empower you not only to prevent burnout, but also achieve sustainable success. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Finding the Unicorn in You. Today, I have a very special guest. I've actually known him for quite a bit. We met at the OC Run Club. He is a senior risk consultant at a top US accounting firm. He has seen the highs and the lows, and he's here to share some of his wisdom and his tips. So today I have Charlie Farahat. Welcome, Charlie.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. So why don't you tell us a little bit about you and kind of like what led you to in your career right now? And
Like your intro already said, I'm Charlie, and I'm a risk consulting. I actually kind of fell into this career by accident in a way. I didn't really know what consulting was coming out of college. Most accounting schools don't really teach you anything because consulting is such a broad area of study. And I more so wanted to go into the audit field, which in accounting, there's two big fields, audit and tax. I wanted to go into audit, and I applied to a bunch of places, didn't get interviews at a lot of them, including the firm I'm at now. I applied to work for audit with them, and they didn't even give me an interview. And then I saw a risk consulting position open, and I'm like, might as well try this. It's just a foot in the door. And my ultimate goal was actually to transfer into audit once I got a full-time offer. But I did my internship in risk consulting, and I kind of fell in love with the team and the culture that this team specifically has. So I ended up staying, and I did my internship, got a full-time offer, returned, going into my third year right now as a senior.
that's awesome. So for the listeners that still don't know what consulting is, what is it in a nutshell?
Yes, consulting. Yeah, there's a million kinds. Mine specifically is risk consulting. So I work in a financial institution. So I help credit unions, larger banks, smaller banks, and I help them follow certain government regulations like FDICA and SOX, which is essentially management overseeing their processes within in this case, a bank. So I review a lot of their processes to make sure that there's no holes or gaps and if there are, we help them fill it. And if a process is not being followed as it should, we help the bank kind of establish or readjust their process to better cover all the risks within their bank.
So you mentioned that you applied to several jobs before you got this one. What
Yeah.
made you continue wanting to apply and not give up and just say, screw it, I'm just going to do something else?
Yeah, I was really getting to that point. I was honestly, if you told the younger version of me that was applying to all the jobs like you would graduate without one, it wouldn't really surprise me. But I knew kind of what I was going for, and I knew I wanted to be in public accounting. So I just kept pushing through it, and I knew like someone had to, like my resume had to pique somebody's interest. So it ended up piquing the interest of the partner in LA, and he went ahead and gave me an interview, and the rest is there.
And that's a challenge that a lot of us do end up having, where things don't always go our way or they don't go in our timeline when we
Yeah.
want them. So we get very anxious, we lose patience and we just give up. So thank you for sharing that. I want to go a little bit more in depth with that. I know that that was one little challenge that you had. Share with us like one more significant challenge that really impacted your career, and how did you overcome that obstacle?
There's been a good amount of challenges. Anyone that's in public accounting knows, like every day you're kind of thrown a different thing. And I think that's part of what kind of pushes people away, but it's kind of what also builds people up in a way. And for me, the original form is, when you start at most accounting firms, you get someone who's like your direct report. It's not always going to be a partner. It might be a manager, a supervisor, something like that. So my original direct report ended up leaving the firm, and I was kind of lost because I had no one to kind of go to for help or kind of show me the way in a sense. So that was the biggest challenge. And the way I navigated that is I kind of went to other mentors that I had at the firm, and I was just like, where do I go? And I kind of learned to kind of like put my foot down, and thankfully where I'm at, you're allowed to kind of pick your supervisor in a way. So I found someone who I'm like, this person kind of aligns with the area I see myself going in. And I went to him and I said, hey, do you have space to kind of like take me under your wing? He said, yeah. And we went from there. But there's always a million challenges. There's a lot of people getting overwhelmed in public accounting, especially like I'm in my busy season for consulting. And literally this week, I had 5 open projects and I was extremely overwhelmed. So I just got onto a call with that same manager that I have who's now in charge of me. And I said, teach me how to navigate this. Right. I think sometimes people in all lines of work kind of feel like they have to do everything themselves. And I don't look at it that way. Like, of course, if I can get it done myself, I will. But in a situation like this, where I've never experienced such a workload, I went to my manager. He's been doing it for 8 years. And he's seen everything I've seen probably 4 or 5 times. So I went to him and I kind of showed like a little bit of vulnerability in a way where I was like, I don't know what to do here. Teach me.
And that is something that it really is the key of success, because a lot of us think that asking for help is weakness or makes us lesser than, or it doesn't make us good enough as somebody else. But all the people on the top had either a mentor, a strong network, a group of friends, or just people around them that help them get where they're at. You really can't know everything and have every skill in your tool belt. You have to lean on the people next to you.
Exactly. And like how I go to my manager, who he's been here for 8 years, I made a joke to him one time. I was like, man, it seems like you know everything. And he's like, no, you call me at certain times asking for help. And I call the director and I asked him for help. And the director's been doing it for 25 years. And then, but the director also goes to our national lead and he asks him for help. And, you're never not learning something. There's never something where he's like, I know everything about this.
Exactly. And I think that's what differentiates people who go into management, to go into leadership, is when they are willing to admit, hey, I just can't do this. Let me learn from someone else. And the more you kind of throw your web out there, the more people you connect with, you network with, and the better you're going to be in the long run.
Yeah, I actually, speaking of leadership, I saw a really interesting quote. I heard it from Nick Bear. He's a CEO of a supplement company called Bear Performance Nutrition. And he was talking about how leadership isn't a title, it's a responsibility. So you have that responsibility to keep learning so you can keep teaching the people below you.
I love that. I completely love that. Have you heard of Maxwell's 365 leadership policies?
I have not.
So Maxwell's 365 leadership, like, I guess, policy theory, whatnot. He basically said that in order for an organization to thrive, people have to learn how to lead up. So teach their managers things, how to lead
Yeah.
down, teach people below them, and how to lead side to side. So teach to their colleagues, and also receive feedback and receive information and training from every level, 365 degrees, in order for you to become truly successful.
I've never heard of that concept, but like as you were saying it, I kind of saw like that is something that like everyone on my team does. I have associates below me and I learn from them. They learn from me. It goes all around.
Yeah, and it's that willingness and that culture that helps people survive, especially as consultants. As when somebody says, "Oh, I'm a consultant in this," they automatically label you as the expert in that field. So it's a
Yeah.
lot of pressure for you to
Yeah.
like have the answers for your clients, and then when you don't, you're like, "Let me get back to you tomorrow."
Yeah. I've had to do that a few times. Thankfully, on a lot of those calls, I'll have my supervisor in there. And if they hit me with a question I've never seen or heard, my supervisor's seen it and heard it already. So they're able to jump in and answer it for me. Yeah.
That's good. Now these are really good tidbits. I want to switch a little bit more on the stress side of that. So as a consultant, one finds we work very long hours, odd times of the days. It can be very stressful and put a lot of physical and mental stress on our bodies. What are some things you recommend that have worked for you that others can do to kind of help regulate that stress?
Yeah. In public accounting, it's a grind, right? And I work with a lot of students at different universities, like, doing recruiting efforts. And there's also like some students that I help give guidance to. And like when they're talking to me about like, oh, I want to get into consulting, I want to get into public accounting in general, I tell them, I'm like, if you're not willing to grind for a set amount of time in the year, don't apply. I think that's the first thing. Like those people are people that are reaching out to me to understand what they're getting themselves into. So I think number one, people need to understand what they're actually getting themselves into, right? The second thing is once you're actually here, you need to kind of once learn for the first part, but kind of understand the expectations of the next level. So from going from associate to senior, that was something my manager prepped me on. He was like, you're gonna be expected to do this as a senior. I want you to do it as an associate. So once you get to senior, you won't be overwhelmed. You won't be too burnt out, and you'll kind of you'll know how to handle it because you've already done it. Um, so that's one thing, is kind of prepping for that next level, right? Once you are comfortable at your own level. And then, but one of my biggest ways is kind of be like, put your foot down in a lot of areas. For me, once my computer closes, it doesn't open for the rest of the day. Um, that is like a thing that I have. Like, I won't work from the office and go home and open my computer again. No, I'll stay at the office as long as I need to get my work done. And like, once my computer's closed, they can't reach me over there. I also don't keep email on my phone. That is another thing where if I open it, I know I'll get stressed. I'll be like, oh, I had to worry about this. I have to worry about that. So I keep it away from my like personal area in a way. But at the end of the day, all my team members have my phone number. So if it's anything that's actually super important, they can call me. Um, I think that's a big part that people don't fully understand. Like, again, if it was really that important, uh, someone would call you and kind of have a fire drill with you.
That makes sense. And those are really good tips, like closing your laptop, make sure that you say no unless it's an absolute emergency, and really define what an emergency is. I've been
Yeah.
in situations where I tell my clients, only reach me if you're in an emergency, and it's something that could have waited 2 weeks, but like, so really define what an emergency is, really set those boundaries clear so that people don't break them, and you end up getting unnecessarily stressed.
Yeah, if you respond to every little thing, people are going to think that they can come to you with every little thing. And, if like my associates have a problem and they need help, call me. I've had that happen. I've closed my computer and I'll get a call from someone saying, "Hey, I don't understand how to do this. Can you please hop back on for 30 seconds?" Yeah, and that's perfectly fine because they were at a complete stopping point. And in that case, that was the emergency. They couldn't move past where they were without help from me.
Not only that, but you have to allow them to problem solve it on their own and try
Mhm.
to figure it out on their own for a little bit too. Yes, provide them advice, provide them counsel, but if they get accustomed to come to you for every single thing, then they don't learn self-sufficiency. And the way I kind of explain this to clients is, you're in a beach and you draw a line in the sand. And you tell them, when you need me, come to this, like, come here, don't ever pass this line. But if they're like, I really need you, and you get a little bit closer, that line now moves. And then before you know it, you see the original line a few feet away from you. And now you're way closer than you had to be because you didn't respect your own boundaries. And they've gone and they learned that every time that they cry about it or they really like ask, saying it's an emergency, you will come a little bit step closer away from that line.
That is a great like analogy in a way. For me, with my interns, like we had this summer, is I told them, I said, work on something. If you can't figure it out, give it 10 minutes of you trying again, and then come to me. And kind of as you move up in the levels, like gets longer. So like the associates, if you figure it out for 20 minutes, if you can't figure it out in 20 minutes, come to me. And then now as a senior, when I go to my manager, I give myself about 30 to 45 minutes to figure something out before I go to my manager about it. Yeah.
I love that. I do something similar. Right now I don't have anybody under me, but when I did, I would I'll tell my staff, come to me with two possible solutions on how to fix the problem that you can't fix. And
Mhm.
then there, at least I know that you did some critical thinking and how to workshop. And then once they started doing that, they didn't ever, they, number of times that they came to me decreased because those two possible solutions actually worked.
Oh yeah. 100%.
No, this is really good advice. What would you say? So I know like there's no matter what career you're in, there's going to be some times where you have busy season and you're going to have to work extra hours. You're going to have to be a little bit flexible and just knowing that it is not going to be forever, but a short time frame, especially if you're in private business. So how does one still maintain a work life balance even during those stressful times?
Yeah. It's, you got to set the standard with everyone around you. Um, if your family and friends don't know what your busy season's like, or like, hey, like I'm going to be completely unavailable from this time to this time every weekday, um, they're going to be like, well, what's wrong? Right. So that's one thing where, my family and friends understand, um, my standards that I have. And like, even like in the run club group chat, I put that I'll be out for like a couple of weeks because around when run club is I'm still working a little bit. So I can't really get to the run club like I want to. Um, but like, there's going to be sacrifices in every way. Sometimes that sacrifices, I can't go hang out with my friends. Sometimes it might be sleep, long day. And like, you kind of just want to relax, but you don't want to go to sleep in a way. Like you just want to play video games or you want to watch a show or a movie or something. Like you got to sacrifice something, especially during busy season. But yeah, it's those two things. There's going to be sacrifices and you got to set the standard with everyone that you do care for and spend time with.
I agree. And it's all a balance. When one side of the scale gets too high, you have to let something go in order for it to balance again. And as much as we want to have it all, we can't have our cake and eat it too. We have to be able to see what is more important to us, put priorities, and knowing that it's not a forever state. It's just a small piece of time, and eventually this will pass, and then you'll have some type of regularity again.
Yeah, and especially in like the busy season time, I do something called Farahat phrases on my Microsoft Teams status. So anyone that comes to message me, they get to see a quote of the week. And one of my original quotes was understanding the difference between all in and all consumed. When you're all in, that it's like I'm bought into this, right? And I'm gonna give everything I have towards it, right? And people confuse the two, but the difference is, and if you're being all consumed by something, it is affecting your personal life, it is affecting your health. Um, if you're all in on something, it shouldn't do that. Being all consumed is kind of an unhealthy uh, approach to it, right? And like I said, there's sacrifices. I've definitely had some times where I've had a later lunch or a later dinner, but that is still me being all in because if I was all consumed, I wouldn't eat at all. Right. And I would get zero sleep. So I think it's important to understand those two. And if you find yourself in the all consumed area, you need to take a step back and make sacrifices in different areas.
No, that is true. You have to stay disciplined. And if you're not disciplined, then you stick to your routine, or the biggest thing is knowing why you're doing something,
Yeah.
and then like what is going to be the consequence if you do it or don't do it.
Yeah. So it's a thin line to kind of walk across, but it's something everyone needs to figure out sooner or later.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Now, if somebody wants to grow in their current spot, maybe they're like, I want to either transition my career into something else, or I just want to grow professionally. What are some tips that you can kind of give people where they can at least take one step forward to start?
It's finding someone in that area. I've seen a lot of people um, in the tax and audit practice that we have at the firm who they've come to me and to be like, hey, how do I get into consulting? Right. A little transfer in a way. And like I think that is the first step, finding someone there. It's going to be a lot harder to get your foot in the door if you don't do that. Uh, Now, sometimes it's going to be really hard, but like, let's say it's somewhere like you want to get into a completely different career path that your major in college still applied to. Um, you can find someone on LinkedIn, find a company that you want to work for and find someone there that is doing what that is, like the job that you want to do is. And then like how I said earlier, you need to understand what you're getting yourself into. So schedule a little one-on-one with them for 10 minutes. You don't want to be going on like an hour long meeting, but like if they're open to it, go for a coffee chat, like meet up for coffee and just chat about what you can do there. But yeah, the first thing is finding someone in that field, and you can do it in person or you can do it in LinkedIn and stuff like that.
Now that is what I pretty much recommend to all my clients too. Is
Yeah.
like you need to put yourself out there, get your foot in the door somehow, and go in genuinely wanting to know more about them and about their career. And
Yeah.
I say, don't force yourself in there and be like, give me a job. No, you have to be able to just say, hey, my name is so and so. I'm really passionate about this career. I'm curious to see if it's going to be a good fit for me. Do you have like 5-10 minutes that you can give either on a virtual coffee shop, or if you really want to if you have the time, come meet with me for coffee, just so I can kind of pick your brain a little bit. And people are
Ye-
really open to that.
Yeah, they really are. And but yeah, something you said, like genuinely be interested in it. Um, I do a lot. Like I said, I do a lot of recruiting, and I definitely see kids where they come and they're asking me questions about consulting, and like it's very clear to tell when someone is kind of being like over enthusiastic. I had one student come and I did a little chat with him, and everything I said, he's like, "Wow, that's very interesting." And I'm like, "Okay, I think like you want to be natural, you want to be yourself." And there's definitely students where I've gone to my directors, I'll be like, "Hey, I talked to this person. I think they would be a good fit. They at least deserve an interview." Right. And it's because at the end of the day, like you need to be yourself, you need to be genuine, because it's not only your GPA or your past experiences that are going to get you the job. It's, can I be with this person on a day to day basis? Right. At the end of the day, I look at like work is work. It's, I am not my job. Um, and I'm still a person. But what makes it easier to log on to work every day is knowing that everyone on my team is like genuinely my friend. Um, so that's the people aspect. So, we don't want to say like, oh, this guy would be really cool to be friends with, so we're going to give him a job, or this girl would be really cool to be friends with, so we're going to give her a job. It's, one, can we talk to you, just have a conversation? And then two, do you at least have a baseline that we can grow you from? Right. Um, if you are not coachable, it's not going to really help you in any way. You need to be able to take the coaching and also be able to communicate.
No, I think that's completely true. And knowing who you are is the first step. Because if you
Yeah.
don't know who you are and you've been people pleasing, trying to become over, like enthusiastic, trying to like really butter them up so you can get the job, it comes inauthentic because you're like, I don't know who the heck you are. You're putting up a front, obviously, to get this position.
Yeah.
So I don't know who I'm going to be working with. Maybe it's going to be a person that's super lazy and I'm going to have to pick up the slack, or maybe it's a person that is over ambitious and doesn't work as a team as a team player. So you really want to be yourself and ask those questions. Who am I? Like, how am I around my friends? And how can I bring that person into the interview?
I think that also goes both ways. When I was in college and I was doing my recruiting process, there was one firm where I just straight up didn't even apply to, because when I would talk to the recruiter, he would make it sound like Disneyland, like working at that firm was the best thing he's ever done. And it's the most fun. Like he enjoys it more than being at his own house with his kids. And I kind of heard his pitch, and I'm like, that you don't seem very genuine to me. And I don't feel like I would fit in there, because I am just myself. That is like something where I haven't gotten in trouble with it at work, but my directors, they know like Charlie, like when I'm not facing the client, I kind of don't have a filter, and I'll kind of say what I want to say. I'll make the jokes that I want to make in our team calls, because we have team calls like every other week. I'll talk about how I can match up with any of these NFL players, lock down any NFL receiver, right? But like that's just me being myself. That's me being genuine. So you got to be genuine, but then also understand, like if you're talking to a recruiter and you don't feel they're genuine, like I'm not going to say that's a full display of the culture of where you're potentially going, but that's definitely a bit of a sign.
And they're the face of the company, at least that first interaction you have. So that's going
Mhm.
to be a big tell of how it is. One question that I always ask during an interview is, please describe what a really good day at work would be for you, and describe what a really bad day at work would be for you and why. When you ask like recruiters that same question, you get like a really good idea of like, are they faking it or are they being real?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I definitely ran into a fair share of recruiters that I was just like, yeah, I don't know if you're really giving me the full tale. And that's something that I make an effort to do. When I'm talking to students, I want them, like I said, I want them to know what they're getting themselves into, right? There's long days, but there's also a lot of fun days. Yeah. Like I might be in the office until 7:30, 8 o'clock sometimes, but there's days in there are slow time, which is around like February to March, and or maybe even into April. There's days I'm logging off at 3 p.m. Right? Because there's a lot of easy days too. So
Exactly. So it's a balance. It's
yeah,
not always going to be hard. It's not always going to be easy. Just kind of have to go with the flow.
exactly.
Now, for my last question, and this is the unicorn lesson question. It's the most important question of the podcast. So,
Yeah.
what is your unicorn lesson that has helped you, like that one thing that you learned that sticks with you that has helped you reach where you're at now?
I think it's a lot of things I said earlier. It's being yourself. It's being vulnerable. Um, Going to someone and saying, I don't know what to do here. I need you to help me. Right. Um, if you do that, no one is going to look at you and say, wow, I can't believe you asked me for help on this. Because like I said, with my workload, I was overwhelmed and I told my manager, I said, help me out with this. I ended up getting a call from my director today saying, what can I do to help you? Right. Because at the end of the day, if you are not vocal, right, that will lead to the burnout. If you're like, okay, I don't know how to do this. I'm just going to grind until I get it done. And you're working weekends and you're working till the late evening every day to get that work done. You're going to get burnt out and you're going to want to leave, which that's kind of like the last thing a lot of companies want, right? They don't want, like, contrary to belief, they don't want you to get burnt out, right? They want you to be happy. They want you to stay with them because they've invested a lot to kind of teach you. So yeah, it's being genuine, being yourself, knowing when it's time to reach out for help.
And you have to, because if you just keep it in and you just like take it and take it day after day, that's where burnout starts creeping in. And like you said,
Mhm.
after a certain level, like when the managers actually realize it, your coworkers start realizing it's too late at that point because you're already so burnt out, you stop caring. Once you reach that point, then it's like where those you're in your mind and what other people tell you just doesn't get through. And what you in your mind, the only solution is to leave.
So how are they supposed to know if you don't tell them? Right.
Mm,
Um, how are they going to know to help you if you don't say, I need help? Like, it's not mind readers. And especially my team, a lot of us are spread out. Like, I'm in Orange County while my manager's in Seattle. There's physically no way for him to see me. There's no way for him to see me around the office where I'm kind of like head in the computer, definitely looking a little frustrated because I don't understand what I'm looking at. Like, you need to say something.
exactly. And then a lot of us, especially now that a lot of positions are going virtual, you may be working on your own. So,
Yeah.
like, you may be working hybrid, some days in the office, some days not. But you can't just expect people to know what's going on in your head because your appearance may not be as obvious as you think it is. And people
Mhm.
think, oh, it's okay. And what I tell a lot of my clients is if you don't learn to advocate for yourself, no one is going to advocate for you because you are living your life. You're the one that pays your bills. You're the one that knows what your mental state is and where your physicality is. Everybody else is worried about their own body and their own selves. They're too busy in their tunnel vision in their world that unless you say, "Hey, I need help," that breaks that little like tunnel vision. They're like, "Oh shoot, let me help you." Because the only reason a manager is going to really pay attention to you is one, you're doing bad, or
Yeah.
two, there's some mobility in the company where they have to pay attention or like, oh, maybe this person will be able to fit there, blah, blah, blah. But it's the people that have communicated with them, have asked for help, and have put themselves out there.
Yeah. And like, not only put yourself out there in the sense like you need help, but something you said, like kind of fight for yourself. At the end of every year, I believe most companies do this. I've seen it with all my clients. The firm does it itself is year-end performance reviews. So like I am not in my performance review. It's between my manager, the directors, and that's really it. And, but I give my manager all the tools he needs to go in there and fight for the best review he can get. Right. We keep a little note that is like a shared note on a OneDrive where, hey, I got, here's everything that I accomplished throughout the year. Here's how I set all the goals at the beginning of the year. And here's how many of those I actually hit. Um, so yeah, you just really got to be vocal, not only to ask for help, but also to let those people knowing that you did your performance review, uh, know what to say for you. Even if it's like a job where, you're not, you might be under them, but you're not always working with them. They only ever see your final product, right? You got to let them know like, hey, I did this. I did this aspect. Cause there's also internal things, right? The recruiting I do is not a client driven thing. So it's something that's internal to the firm. And no one can really see that, especially my manager being in Seattle. He doesn't see me go to all these events. So I have to let him know, hey, I went to 5 recruiting events this year and I did this for our charity events and I did this, right? And that kind of helps drive the performance review.
Exactly. And that what you just described there is what I told my clients, which is make a success journal. Write down the date, what was achieved, what was the outcome, and why is it important? And then
Yep.
make a list. You have to keep it with you because at the end of the year, they're not going to remember what you did. They have so many other people that they supervise, and some of them are not even on site to actually see what you do. So,
Yeah.
provide them all the tools so they can do the best job for you. Because if not, they'll be like, oh, they're just, a 3 because
Yeah.
I don't remember anything special that they did.
Yeah, exactly. That's literally exactly what it is. You gotta show them like, here's why I deserve the rating that I want.
Exactly. Well, Charlie, this has been an amazing interview. Thank you so much
Mhm.
for being on here. I
Yep.
know I said I had a last question, but the very, very last question, if somebody actually has a question in this industry, wants to become a consultant, or they just want to like ask you something that resonated on this podcast, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, they can go ahead and just reach out to me on LinkedIn. Just my name, Charlie Farahat, Charlie, and then Faarhat. You go ahead and reach out to there. Like the DMs are always open and happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. Well, thank you so
Yeah.
much. For listeners, I'll have all of this information in the show notes. And if you actually go on my website at rainbowcareercoaching.com, you'll be able to see a blog with Charlie added to the Unicorn Wall of Fame. And where you'll see all of his information and his photo and everything a summary of what he said today. But as a reminder, episodes come out every Friday at 7 a.m. And don't forget to apply the unicorn lesson of the week. All right, everyone. Hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you for having me.